Hey, Days of Judah here. As you know by now, or maybe you don't know, it's late. I always film these things late because all the other stuff in the world is happening during the day. I have small children that are relentless and do not stop until the nighttime, so it's late. But I want to come on and talk about perpetual calendars. If you're not aware, I was not aware before I was on. Well, let me back up. Let me make sense. My Instagram feed is stuff for that's geared towards parents of young children and stuff like that. I guess the algorithm knows all. So so a lot of stuff pops up there, and some of it is whatever, and some of it's really interesting. And I've seen a couple. One person that I follow in particular that uses things from I guess it's the Waldorf School of Education for Children. So and I'm not even going to try to go because I don't know. I don't know very much about Waldorf beyond the name and beyond the fact that it's a very when you look at the items that are presented to children, they're a very simple, basic forms that are just meant to inspire imagination. So I'll leave it there because that's all I know. But what's I've seen that's been pretty cool is that on this one person's reel of stuff is they've had these little figures, little wooden figures and things like that, and I've always seen them. And then I kept seeing this thing called like a perpetual calendar, which is basically a circular platform with figures on them that represent there are different sets, figures that represent the days of the week, figures that represent the months. Sometimes they have marbles that represent the days of the month. It can be a little or it can be a lot of pieces. And initially it kind of can look very busy. And you're like, my kid's going to throw that marble across the house, and then it can look like a lot of pieces. But once I understood, when I started researching it, and once I understood it, it became more and more interesting to me because the idea is to give children a tangible way to understand the passing of time. So something that they can hold in their hands. So it's a calendar, and you're like, well, yeah, a calendar is tangible. You write on the paper. You have these little boxes, and each box is a day of the week, and there are a bunch of weeks that make a month, and we have a year, and that's cool, but it's very flat. It's very two-dimensional. This is three-dimensional. A child can hold the little figures in their hands. They can play with them. And so I got very interested, long story short, and I went on Etsy. First I was on Amazon, and Amazon is cool, but as far as things like this, like Waldorf, like a perpetual calendar or stuff like that, it's hard to find that stuff because it's kind of like, I don't want to say like hippie-ish, but it's a little more earthy than I've seen on Amazon. I'll just leave it there. So what I basically saw was just a few of them, not a whole bunch, but some beautiful handmade sets with these big circular like platforms or plaques made of wood with these figures, and it was just beautiful. And I was like, oh, that'd be wonderful. And then my brain started turning because I was like, oh, those. There was a couple things where I just couldn't make the leap, and I couldn't make the purchase. One of the reasons was because they're so beautiful, because they're handmade, because they're made with like the utmost care. Some of them are really expensive. So, girlfriend's got a budget, and So I'm trying to be wise with stuff like that. So I was like, okay, can I get it in pieces? Like I was trying to think. And then the next thing was, some of them, once again, are handmade and beautiful. Had some very delicate pieces. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old who, you know how they say Rome wasn't built in a day? They could pretty much take down Rome in half a day. Like, easy. Super easy. They would just lay out all their toys in the streets. Everybody would fall, and somebody would fall with a torch, and it'd be chaos. So that said, my children cannot have delicate toys. Not right now. This is not the phase of life for that. So they need sturdy things that if someone has a tantrum and throws it across the room, the toy will survive. They need things that, if somebody decides is bored or is curious and decides to chew on it, it's, we're not going to lose a piece and we have to go to the ER. None of that. So these sets were really, really beautiful, but I said, can't. So price and delicate. Then the third thing was, the more I looked at these things, there weren't, I don't want to say there weren't any, because there were little pieces and things like that for the occasional set. Like if someone did something about the seasons, like the 4 seasons, there was one that had like two characters. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. There weren't a lot of characters of color. A lot of them were meant to just look like just kind of plain, non-distinct, kind of like how we do flesh color, but flesh color usually means white. So I really wanted something that my children could identify with and connect to. And I realized that this is something that I've never heard of growing up and experienced. And perhaps, other Black people have that same experience. So maybe it's not something that's traditionally from our culture. So we don't see a lot of it. But gosh, I would love to, because I think as an adult, I would love to just have this set, like just for me. I love the idea. So long story short, for these 3 reasons, for price, for the delicacy of it, and the lack of diversity in some of the sets, I decided that this is something that I would really love for my kids, but I couldn't buy. And I'd have to figure out another way. So I tried to hack it. Like I looked at some of the sets and some of the things that they were doing that I really, really liked and tried to take pieces. And hopefully that's a sign of, to those people that have made these things, that your work is beautiful and inspiring. So, and I'm not selling anything. So, but basically what I did was, for the platform itself, I went on Amazon. I did go on Amazon, and I found this wood tray, because one of the sets had like a wood platform like this with paint, like little painted seasons on here. And I might do that later. I may not. I may just leave it plain. But I just needed the base. So I went on Etsy and found something super basic. That's about the thickness of it. And then today I was in the Dollar Tree. Do not sleep on the Dollar Tree. Magic happens there. And I found this little porcelain bowl. I haven't looked, but I don't see anything. It's probably made in China. I'm sorry. But it's a little porcelain bowl. Actually, for as rough as my kids can be, they don't break bowls very often. They're usually pretty good about stuff like that. Odd little, loophole there. But yeah, they don't usually break bowls like that. So in one of the sets that I saw, they had this platform, and then they had the bowl that sits in the center, and they would have the little characters that represented each month around the calendar, and in the bowl you put things that are representative of that time in the year, or the time in history where you are. And what's really cool about that is it can be unique to wherever you are in the world, and it becomes very personal. It's something a child can hold, they can see, they can understand, they can really embrace. So I went to the Dollar Tree once again when I was there, and I found these little, these are, I don't know if it's really in focus, out of focus, sorry. These are just little bits of wood, like branches that have been chopped up. Had I thought about it and really had, the brain power to think about it, I would have just gotten something outside, but I was in the store and I saw these, and it was like a little bag of these pre-cut things, and they're in the craft section, so use them for whatever, but they're basically these branches. And so I was talking with my children about how it's winter and all the trees lose their leaves and they are brown and they don't have any leaves on them and they're very bare, and they just held them and played with them a little bit and looked at the pieces, and so we have those in the bowl for right now because it's January. And then the next piece, which I'm kind of proud of, is this. Oh, let me start here. I got these little peg people because I thought this was the best option for our family for all the reasons that I explained before. They're adorable. They're too big for a child to swallow. They're just, and they're open to imagination. So I took these, and I made this little character here. She has pigtails, as you can see. It's my first attempt, so, she's all right. And I looked online, and rather than painting these, which is what I was originally going to do, I saw someone that used a method where they use coloring pencil and then did a layer of varnish over it to protect the color. And yeah, so this is my January character. She has a scarf and a sweater. It's hard to see. I gave her a little snowflake on her sweater. Representative, it's hard to see. Representative of the winter, and she's long pants on, and her hair in pigtails. And this is my little January character, and she's black. So, yeah. So I talked with my children about the fact that it's January and that it's winter and it's cold outside and we need to wear our scarves and our sweaters, and the trees have lost their leaves, and and that kind of thing, and this is the season that we're in right now. This is the month of January. So that's what I did. That's part of my hack. Am I going to do more? Yes. I'm perusing the web and trying to get ideas for the other months. And the nice thing is that I have time to make them because there's 30 days, at least 30 days to most months, so I have time to think about and create a next character for the next month. And it can be a girl, it can be a boy, it can be but I'm really excited. My daughter, the oldest, really seemed to kind of take to this, and she was walking around with her little January person. Yeah, so that was my hack on a Waldorf perpetual calendar. Has anyone else done anything like that? Does anyone have a perpetual calendar set? I just ordered some pieces for a weekly, to do the days of the week too. So I'm excited for those to come. Excited to try that out. Anybody done anything like that? Any other people of color have experience with this concept, this idea? Does it feel weird, unique, wonderful? I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm Days of Judah. It's late, but I am excited about ways for my children to learn about time. So let me know what you think. Have a great night.